Good morning, everyone. Today we are examining some lessons from Isaiah chapter 60. And as we went through and read chapter 60 yesterday, we noticed that there's a lot of statements about the blessings that the people of Israel are going to receive. And as we go through and examine some lessons from chapter 60, one of the first questions that comes up is what is the meaning of this particular chapter? Is it something where God is speaking prophetically about their return from captivity? Or is it something where God is speaking in looking toward the things of the coming of Jesus and the church? And I think it's a little bit of both. As far as that goes, I think there are applications to both that are utilized here in chapter 60. But I do think that the main purpose of chapter 60 is to talk to them about how things are going to be with their return. And so, with the lessons that we're going to talk about today, they're going to be geared more toward that particular aspect of the foundational elements of what's being discussed. In chapter 60, I've pulled out a couple of different lessons from the chapter. The first one is found in verses 3 and 4, where there God says, he's calling on them to get up and to shine there, for their light has come. He says, the Gentiles shall come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising. Lift up your eyes all around and see. They all gather together. They come to you. Your sons shall come from afar, and your daughters shall be nursed at your side. Remember that with the coming of the Assyrians for the northern kingdom, that there is going to be a scattering of the northern tribes. They'll still be present in some degree in Judah, but the overwhelming majority of the northern 10 tribes are going to be scattered abroad. And there's also going to be a scattering when the Babylonians come along and take the southern kingdom into captivity around 100 years after the time of Isaiah. But here, God is stating that the Gentiles shall come to your light, the kings to the brightness of your rising, and you will gather together again. In other words, it's not always going to be this way. Now, one of the key components of chapter 60 is God is using a lot of prophetic language. Everything in this chapter is not intended to be a literal occurrence, but rather he is giving them hope for the things that are still to come. He says, the Gentiles shall come to your light. And this light that he's talking about is the light of their service to God. And you're going to see during the time when they are in captivity, through the effects of Daniel, through the effects of Nehemiah and Ezra and the others, that there will be kings such as Nebuchadnezzar and various others that are going to come to the light as far as who God is. And they are going to recognize who God is. And they are going to allow the Jews to do things because of the relationship that they have with their God. And so you see them being gathered together. You see them having a place to once again come together. And you see the prominence of the relationship with God as seen in the nations round about them. You're going to see it later on in the chapter where it's going to talk about all of the different goods that are going to be brought from other areas to give to them and to help them rebuild and to do various other things. And we're going to see those kinds of things are going to occur when they return from captivity. They are going to receive the materials and the different the monies and all of those things that they're going to need in order to be able to rebuild. And so God is telling them, listen, this isn't the end for you. This is not going to be a situation where you're going to literally be off into the sunset and never be seen or heard from again, because many nations have been that way, given the circumstances of what the children of Israel are going to endure and are enduring. But that's not going to be the case with them. They are going to return. They are going to have a place. Now, it's not going to have the same prominence that it had before. It's not going to have the same independence that it had before, and it's certainly not going to have the same power that it had before. But they will return and have their place. They will still have that light that they can shine in the service of God. And when you get down to verse number 19, he says in the second thing that I wanted to point out, he says, "The sun shall no longer be your light by day, nor for brightness shall the moon give light to you, but the Lord will be to you an everlasting light, and your God your glory." He's not literally saying here that the sun and the moon are not going to be of any value anymore, or that they're not going to shine anymore, or anything of that nature. But rather what he is saying is that there is going to be a return to God being the center of their lives and being the center of their service. Remember, one of the key things that they're dealing with at this juncture in time is idolatry. There are all kinds of idols in the land of Israel at this time, and they are all over the place. You can't go anywhere without seeing groves or altars or things of that nature to these different idolatrous gods. God said it's not always going to be that way in the future. In the future, I will be your light. In the future, I will be your glory. And certainly we see by the time of Jesus that the Jewish society is one that very much reflects that particular idea. It doesn't mean that there's not anybody in the nation that worships somebody else or that is from a different background, but you do see a very prominent relationship with worship to God. And you do see the worship of God being the primary relationship of the people of Israel. And so there is this return, and it's not just going to be a physical return. It is going to be, over the course of time, a spiritual return as well. It's not going to be easy. It is not going to be without its problems, and it certainly isn't going to be something that's going to be immediate. But it is coming, and there is hope. And that's the message of Isaiah chapter 60. And so hopefully these will be some things that will be helpful to you. Hopefully they will encourage you as well. And tomorrow we will come back, and we're actually going to do chapters 61 and 62 together tomorrow. And so we'll read those chapters, Lord willing, tomorrow morning. But until then, have a great day.